Hey guys, welcome back to part 2 of our Wild Horse Mustang journey. And I just want to say again, this is not a beginner video or even an instructional video. This is just to show you the psychology behind what we do to get this horse prepared for Jordan within 5 days. And so you can see this is the first time we got him to set down on him from the fence. So he's been to the fence, but his reaction right there showed us what our next step needed to be. And that's, why I taught him to yield to restraint pressure in the beginning from his legs so that I can control him. So that's what I do on day 4 here, is I get a rope on his hind leg. We spent all of day 3, desensitizing from the fence like Jordan was doing. So this is the first time we've sent him out with a rope on his leg. I have my beautiful wife Lynette assisting me and sending him, and then I just stop him from the rope a couple of times just so I can show him that I can stop him and I can see what his reaction is. It's just a safety net. If he did want to explode right now, I could stop him. And from that I can see, after I stop him a couple times, I can see his reaction, so I know now that I'll be able to get out of the pen and Lynette will be able to take over. So we just, watching for reactions, looking for a reason to speed him up. So I'm going to do that right here. I just slowly start quilling up my rope, and I'm trying to shake it loose to get it off. So I just push him up into a trot, and I see that there's no reaction right there. And then I have Lynette push him up there. We sped the video up for you just so it's not so boring to watch. So she speeds him up, and then my rope falls off, and I'm going to step out of the pen now and let her do her magic. And the control that we put on him on day 2, we didn't have on footage, unfortunately. We didn't have anybody to tape that day, and it was kind of windy, so we just done liberty work with him on day 1. And that's where we got control of his send and his turns. And Lynette's just making sure she has them, because he refused the first couple turns to the outside. And we want to make sure we put outside turns on him in this lesson, because inside turns don't give us as much control. The outside turn gives us a stop, and that's what we're looking for. Is if he wanted to explode, Lynette would be able to turn him and stop him. That's the idea of doing liberty work, is to just push these buttons a little bit, and we want to make sure we can get him to walk, trot, and lope while we're in control of him, because we've already done that with the saddle on him without a rider. So now we just want to show him it's no different when we have a rider on him. And we want to expose him to as much as we can in this round pen, because when Jordan goes home, he don't have this same kind of facility. He's not going to have help from us sending back and forth. So we need to get him to the point that he can start picking up on a rein himself and teaching him to move himself. So those are lessons to come here. I'm just going to let this run out for a little bit so you can see the submission is there. That's what Lynette's looking for when he drops his nose down. So we're still rewarding that submission that we taught him on day 2. And, typically we start every horse by getting that acceptance in the pecking order and rewarding that acceptance in every lesson. But because of the situation with this horse being so old, not halter trained, we went right to teaching him to handle restraint pressure and yielding to a restraint pressure so that we could start teaching him to handle fear. And that's what we did on day 1. And day 2 we done liberty work. So we done the liberty work, and that's where we got acceptance, because a horse won't really show you true acceptance until you have them at liberty, because it's close to a horse-to-horse conversation. So this is day 5. And so we'd done everything. We sent him around at liberty with the saddle on. And now this is Jordan's first time. He just got on him cold from the fence right there. And I'm assisting in the round pen today. I'll be sending him around, and I'm just going to start teaching him to help out with his legs. So once I get moving him out, I want to make sure that the first send and turn and stop is from me. So I see that he honors those turns right away, the outside turn. So Lynette done a good job of teaching him that on day 4. Once I have this horse following a feel and he's listening to my turns, I can have Jordan start to add leg pressure and slowly increase his leg pressure while I back it up with the taps of the whip. And then when he scoots forward off his leg, he can release his leg. So Jordan only has to build pressure and release, and I'm running the taps for him. And, you know, in the meantime, we're just looking for him to make a mistake so we can deal with it. It's going to be an argument because of fight or flight. So right here, it's the fight. So he was just late to my beam. So I, have Jordan use his legs. I use my taps, and we scoot him forward to lighten him up, because it's very important to get a young horse, light as soon as possible. Having the ability to get him light is how we switch him to the flight instinct. But I find most people in the beginning, they tiptoe around a horse and they're afraid to get him light and sensitive because they're afraid they might scare him. And all we do is build a bit of a, we feel it's a safety net, but what happens is when the environment gets electric, all of that resentment comes out. Because if our horse doesn't respect us in the way that we can make him lighter than he actually is, the way another horse would, then he's not going to respect any of our aids. So I'm going to step out now and just let Jordan have a conversation on his own, just trying to prepare him to go home. So you'll see once I step out of the pen, the argument continues to get worse. So I'm just talking Jordan how to maintain contact and release in time with his nose getting off the contact. So we want to pull really slow and release fast. Pull gradual, soft pressure and release fast. So the communication is really clear, and the motivation is movement. So this right side, he has more resistance on, so you can see how many times, how many circles he goes, and now his pattern is showing us that he's getting worse. Like he's doing more circles because he's not yielding to that pressure. He's trying to fight him out. And if Jordan had a tapper, if he had a stick and would tap him right now, I believe he'd talk him through that really quick. But it's a lot to handle a stick and everything, the rope at the same time. So he's just using his legs and going the slow route and trying to talk him through it over time. And that will usually work. Like I said, it's like you can see when it gets worse right there, I would definitely scoot him a little bit if you can. But if you build that resistance too high, then you get what's going to happen next here. Because there's no reason for this horse to come apart. And this is where he bucks right here. And Jordan, if you watch him close, he's not doing anything to warrant this explosion, right? So he's rubbing him down on the flank. That's the only thing I seen where his head raised a little bit. And he kind of scooted and thought about it. I think if Jordan would have had a hold of his rope right here, he could have circled him up so that, it would have turned right into a bend and send. But I think because he had so much slack, like you watch, he's not really doing anything. He's rubbing him one side. And so it's a premeditated move. And see, like when he started to move right there, when he got tied, if he'd have grabbed the rope, I think he could have circled him up. But what happens here next is very important. So I'd have Jordan get down off the fence and grab his lunge whip and just start putting him to work. And it's very important at that point in time that we don't discipline him. Like, you don't want to go at him and think he's in trouble. That's a common mistake I see people make. And you don't want to fight fire with fire. What we do want to achieve right here is sensitivity. So him bucking was a reason to start asking him to move and make him more sensitive to the beam. So the only reason we're going to tap him is when he's late. It's not for bucking. We never try to stop a horse from bucking because it just comes out later when it's least expected, and it comes out in a big way. But the only way I want to teach a horse to stop bucking is have it be his choice, and he premeditates that thought and thinks about bucking and chooses not to because it's too much work. And proof of that is just what I explained when he was sitting there. That was a premeditated decision to buck, so we want it to be a premeditated decision not to buck. And it took me a lot of years before I understood that, and I find a lot of trainers never do, wrap their head around that. And I'm blessed to have had the opportunity to find that, and it come from a couple of things. Riding a lot of really ranked bucking horses earlier in my career, and then going on to compete on bucking horses in the rodeo. So once I started getting handy enough, I could stay on them. Unconsciously, I was hoping that all my horses would buck when I got on them, so I could get some practice. While I was training some of them training horses, I wouldn't make them buck, but I wouldn't protect it at all. I would invite it if they would. And as soon as I opened a door for them to buck, and I wanted them to buck, I seen a huge shift in the amount of horses that did buck. Once they knew I wasn't afraid of it, and it was like I was trying to push that buck and bring it out, they wouldn't buck. And if they did, I never tried to stop them. I just rode them and encouraged them to keep going, so hopefully they'd buck a little while longer so I could get some practice, and they would quit right away. And that wasn't the cool thing. That was cool, but the best thing about that whole deal is the longevity of that decision. And what I mean by that is those horses, that decision stuck with them. So they went on to be horses that never tried to buck again. And I find you only can collect data on them type of horses that you have constant contact with. And I've been blessed in my career to be able to have that long-term contact with all the horses that I start, because that's the only way you really get true data. Like if you're a horse trainer and you're a 30 to 90 day horse trainer and you're rolling through them like a factory, and they leave and come back, and you don't even, new ones come, and you don't know what happened to them horses or how they responded, the most of them, because I know what that's like to be there. I was there for a while. So you can't collect data, so you really don't know what's working and what's not. And I think some people don't care. Once the check's cashed and the horse is gone, it's on to the next, is kind of the attitude that I see out there. But I genuinely wanted to find the best program I could to make sure we was creating horses for grandmas and grandkids. So, I step out of the pen again and just let him go back to having that argument again here. And it's on the left side now. He's had it on the right side. Now it's on the left side. And he does the same thing. He argues with him on this one, and he'll even take off and scoot a little bit here. But the scoot is in the runaway frame of mind, right? But a runaway in the round pen is way easier to manage than a buck, right? Because he's just going to scoot and run around the round pen, and it won't take very long. Even if you didn't pull on him at all, it won't take very long before he quits running, because he's not getting anywhere. He just, he can't conserve energy. So, that being said, we're coming to the end of the video here, and that's basically what we want to touch on, is push these buttons, teach him how to handle fear, teach him to yield to restraint pressure, teach that pecking order so he'll melt to each lesson, and that's what Jordan's starting to do now. This was the number one lesson he's going to work on, is just bending, setting, and melting him in a small pen until he feels comfortable doing that, and then he can go out into bigger circles. So I hope this video was helpful to you guys. Take care, and we'll see you on the next one.